Welcome to this explainer. Okay, picture this. A client walks into your office, sits down, and starts talking. They don't hand you a neatly packaged set of legal statutes, do they? No way. They bring you a messy, chaotic, highly emotional human story. Our mission today is to figure out exactly how top-tier legal professionals act like detectives. We're going to see how they completely filter out that emotional noise, pinpoint the absolute signal, and build airtight cases.
So here's our roadmap. We'll be moving through 5 key phases today: legal thinking, the truth filter, decoding the case, practical scenarios, and finally, resolution strategies. Let's dive right in.
Starting off with Section 1, Legal Thinking, and how we escape the everyday mindset.
Your journey as a legal professional actually begins by totally overcoming the chaos of everyday logic. You have to make this massive paradigm shift right out of the gate. You're translating messy, everyday language into precise, rule-based legal concepts. For instance, when a client says, "Hey, we're getting married," your lawyer brain needs to instantly translate that to, we are registering a marriage, because that is what actually triggers legal rights. Or when they say, "I bought a house," you immediately think establishing ownership. Now, I know that sounds like mere semantics, but honestly, this translation is the absolute bedrock of all legal analysis. You simply cannot apply the law to everyday language. You can only apply it to legal concepts.
Moving right along to Section 2, the truth filter, where we separate the signal from the noise.
Once you're thinking in legal concepts, you have to sift through that massive pile of data the client just dumped on your desk. Because, let's be real, clients bring a whole mountain of noise. It's just raw information. It's the anger, the betrayals, maybe some totally irrelevant drama about their neighbor's dog. Our job at this stage is just to capture it systematically. It's completely unverified and highly subjective, so whatever you do, don't treat it as fact yet. Just get it on paper without rushing to judge. So what's the next step? We have to pan for gold. We filter all that chaotic noise to extract the actionable legal facts. Now, a legal fact isn't just something that happens to be true. No, it's something that specifically creates, alters, or terminates a legal relationship. We're talking about a signed contract, a recorded bank transfer, a formal marriage certificate. These are the solid, verified foundations we need to build our arguments. But wait, what about those juicy details the client mentions that would perfectly make our case, but they don't actually have proof yet? Well, we have to meticulously isolate those as legal assumptions. We don't just throw them away, but we strictly label them as unverified. We highlight them, and then we put our detective hats back on and set out to rigorously interrogate and prove them. This is absolutely crucial to prevent us from building an entire legal strategy on a house of cards. Now, this brings us to a pretty stark truth. There are literally 4 versions of every single story, and a rookie mistake is assuming the client's version is the absolute objective reality. It isn't. The actual objective reality, that's lost to time the very second an event ends. What the client gives you is a highly biased emotional version. Then, of course, the opponent has an entirely different defensive version. Ultimately, the lawyer's story is the only one that really matters in a case. It's the strategic, decoded version built entirely on those verified legal facts we just talked about, carefully anticipating the opponent's next moves. Okay, Section 3, decoding the case. Time to look at the architect's blueprint.
You've got your facts, but a pile of bricks isn't a house, right? Enter the IRAC method. This is your core 4-step magic tool that transforms those raw facts into a highly structured, logical legal conclusion. First step, we identify the exact legal issue. Second, we find the specific rule or law governing it. Third, and honestly, this is where the real heavy lifting happens, is the application. This is where we carefully map our specific legal facts to the requirements of the rule. And finally, we draw a definitive conclusion. It's elegant, it's repeatable, and it is pretty much bulletproof.
But how do we gather those facts effectively before we even touch IRAC? We deploy the 5W1 to H toolkit to ask incredibly targeted questions and extract every single missing piece of the puzzle. Who are the specific legal subjects? What is the actual object in dispute? Where did it happen? Because that totally dictates jurisdiction. When did it happen? That's crucial for knowing which exact version of a law applies. How was it executed? And why? To really understand the motive. Guys, this isn't just basic journalism. This is serious forensic fact-finding. Let's make this concrete. Section 4, practical scenarios, where we put the detective in action.
Abstract theory can be a bit dry, so let's look at a dramatic, real-world scenario. Imagine a client comes to you completely desperate because a lender is demanding their house. The client asks you, does this notarized contract actually have legal validity? On paper, it looks bad.
There's a perfectly legal, notarized house sale contract sitting right there. But the client is in tears, swearing they never ever meant to sell their home. Let's use our new tools to decode this mess.
Let's map out the timeline here. This is a classic disguised transaction where a simple loan is secretly hidden behind a fake house sale. Here's how it went down. The client desperately needed money. The lender said, sure, I'll help, but to secure the loan, just sign this house sale contract. Fast forward, the client fully repays the loan, but the lender gets greedy, points to that notarized contract and says, what loan? You sold me your house. Now, if we were just using everyday thinking, the client looks totally doomed, right?
But we aren't using everyday thinking. This is where we break down the evidence. By analytically charting this out, we can jump to Article 124 of the Civil Code 2015 to declare that fake sale void and legally recognize the actual loan. We use our 5WH toolkit to unearth the hidden facts. We find bank transfers that perfectly match a loan amount. We find text messages discussing interest rates. We find witnesses. Then we run it through IRAC to apply Article 124, which explicitly states that a transaction created to conceal another transaction is entirely void. Boom. We bust the disguised transaction, we validate the hidden one, and we save the client's home.
Which brings us to our final act. Section 5, resolution strategies, looking way beyond the courtroom. So, you've decoded the case, you've got a winning argument. But, and this is a big but, does dragging everyone to court actually serve your client's best interest? Winning via legal rights isn't the only way to win. In fact, it's often not even the best way, especially when a win-win negotiation based on interests might be way faster and way cheaper. A true professional looks at 3 distinct avenues. Yes, you can use legal rights and go to court. It's highly enforceable, but it takes years and costs an absolute fortune. Or you can use power, leveraging market position or PR. But thirdly, you can focus on interests. This means using that bulletproof IRAC analysis you just did, not to start a massive fight, but to force a swift, private negotiation that saves your client time, money, and a whole lot of stress.
So the crucial question I'm going to leave you with today is this. As a legal professional, are you just going to mechanically quote the law, or will you use these tools to uncover the optimal strategic benefit for your client? Honestly, anybody can just read a statute, but taking a chaotic, deeply emotional story, filtering it for hard facts, structuring it into an undeniable legal framework, and then choosing the absolutely perfect strategic resolution, that is what makes you a true master of the case file. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep looking for the signal in the noise.